Once again, guys, it is the very first live stream episode of Buzz TV, Brian Race, Ray Sivitz. Just a moment ago, we saw the little graphic pop up that John from Peerco is going to be joining us in a few minutes.
Yes, John Carone will be here in just a few minutes, and he'll be telling us a lot about his products and where he's going with his business.
So we can't wait to hear more from him. Of course, Buzz TV, that coupon code to take advantage of the 15% off flash sale that Ray mentioned to you just a few minutes ago. One of the segments that we want to do is Industry Buzz here on Buzz TV, sort of keep you guys up to date on news and things that are happening within the world of beekeeping that might have impact on you. What you got for us, Ray?
Well, we've been following Hurricane Ian.
That was horrible.
That came through Florida. Yep. Florida is a big-time beekeeper state, and we didn't know what numbers would be affected because it came through a majority of the state of Florida. And we were fortunate enough to talk to Jamie Ellis, Dr. Jamie Ellis from the University of Florida earlier.
Who will be a guest in future episodes.
He will be. He sure will be. And Dr. Ellis mentioned to me on a call that there are an estimate 400,000 hives that reside in Florida. And when you look at that versus the national census on hives is 2.6 million. So the state of Florida has 15% of the beehives of all the United States.
That's what, about 400,000 or 500,000 or so? Some
400,000 hives.
Yeah.
And so if you just use some quick math on this, is take 10% of that 400,000, that means 40,000 hives were lost in Hurricane Ian at a conservative side. And, obviously if it was 30%, then it would be 120,000 hives that were affected. So very, very concerned on where this will pan out. And we're hoping to get some updates out of the state of Florida on that on future broadcasts.
In fact, Ray, I was going to suggest if anybody who's watching right now is in Florida and has been affected or is part of a beekeeping community that has some news, again, our email address is buzztv@mountainsweethoney.com. Again, thank you, Mountain Sweet Honey, for sponsoring the show. buzztv@mountainsweethoney.com. Let us know your story. We can give some publicity to it and give some real actionable material from there in Florida.
And Brian, we're also watching another news story unfold in Western Canada.
Okay.
We started getting reports in late April because that's about the time the snow's melting away and beekeepers are getting back into their hives, only to find out Varroa has come in very, very hard in the western part of Canada. And we're talking 70 to 80% bee loss in Western Canada. And those numbers are just beyond crazy because the Canadian government will not allow imports of honeybees from the United States. So it is putting the beekeepers in Canada in a very, very hard place in that they have to grow their own bees in Canada. And maybe that would happen in the Ontario region, which is the southernmost part of Canada, where the bees could flourish a little bit more before the thaw on the western side of Canada happens. But still, the numbers don't add up for replacement of those bees in the months to come. And I think that this is going to be a real shortage for those beekeepers in Western Canada.
Do you have any connections of people that sell packaged bees up in there? Of course, Mountain Sweet Honey is one of the largest sellers of packaged bees, especially east of the Mississippi. And so I know you've probably got contacts industry-wide. Is there anybody that, if any of our listeners, viewers there in Canada have suffered through what you've just described, that they may consider reaching out to, or what next steps should they take?
Well, on our next broadcast, we will have the contacts of folks there in Canada that they can contact. And hopefully, right now we're going into the off season and full off season in our bee inventories, not only here in the South, but also in Canada at this point. So the growing cycle really won't happen until April of next year.
Okay.
And I believe we're going to find that there's already a backlog that is there for the commercial beekeepers to replenish their stock, as well as sideliners on that.
And guys, again, if you've got news that you think we need to know about, send it to us via email, buzztv@mountainsweethoney.com, and get your story featured on a future segment of Industry Buzz.
Now, we're also looking and watching what's happening in Australia. For our viewers that don't know, they were Varroa free up until this summer. And that's when the first Varroa was found in Australia. They put a quarantine area around a district and said, hey, you can't take bees in or out of this zone, quarantine zone. And then they ended up expanding it because Varroa had already carried to another 10, 15 miles beyond that. And they quarantined that area. And then they started burning hives to try to eradicate Varroa. And that's a tough thing for a beekeeper to see and experience, but that's what happened there. Now, they have moved away from the quarantine, but we will not know where they are in Australia in regards to Varroa until probably right after Christmas time on that. So we're keeping an eye on that too, folks.